Hello everyone and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. We have talked about Arran on the channel before. Joe, very famously, was involved with the White Stag selection, or the first selection of White Stag, so the channel has a somewhat link to Arran. But this is one of their new bottles. This is the Quarter Cask, also known as the Bothy. It is a 56.2% all-American oak matured, 9-year-old cash strength wonder. Purchased by myself, and very happy to say that it is probably one of the whiskies of the year. I don't think it'll quite get the top spot, but it's certainly up there in terms of value and taste and just general wonderment. There's a lot of people on YouTube reviewing loads of different Arrans right now. The first one that comes to mind is Rob at Whisky in the Six with the Arran 18-year-old, big sherry bomb. This is kind of the opposite, but also has a wondrous style of flavour. So, key facts: Arran Distillery, cool little island on the west coast of Scotland. Has one of the best microclimates in all of Scotland. I think some would argue the world for maturing whiskey. It has a nice, slightly warmer climate. It's got an amazing source of fresh water. And it was only started in 1995. And trying to start a whiskey distillery in the mid-90s must have been a very difficult conversation with any bank manager or loan manager, because Rosebank only shut down in 93. Whiskey was doing okay, but not amazingly. But to kickstart a distillery on an island on the west coast with just your family is quite an incredible feat. And 25 years later, here they are, going strong and people adoring it all over the world. But this whiskey, 7 years originally in first fill standard size American oak casks. And then for the last 2 years, it is matured in 125 litre American oak casks. So it's all American oak maturation, zero sherry input, 56.2% for this particular batch with no colouring and no filtering. I love American cask influence. I love American whiskies, as you all know. So to have a favourite distillery do this with quarter casks at cask strength is just like, yes, please give me as much of it as possible. It comes in around £50 a bottle, so it's not going to break your bank either, especially with the ABV it's got. But let's dive in, let's smell, let's taste, let's see where all the money is. It does say on the front of the box, I think it actually says the phrase gourmet apple. I don't think I've ever had a gourmet apple in my life. I've had an apple, I know what an apple tastes like, but this is full of big, rich, green, juicy, summery, autumnal apples. There's elements of like being in a sweet shop with it. It's got like sherbety notes, those kind of like dib-dab old sweets that you used to have as a kid. And then amongst those big, fruity, juicy, summertime notes, there's tons of like thick, creamy caramel. I always associate Arran with apples and cream, or like apple pie. It's always got that very distinctive, roundish, approachable, comfortable style to it. And with the apple pie note, you always associate that with some sort of whipped cream or ice cream or like, you know, flaky pastry. But yeah, if you like bourbon and you like Scotch single malt whiskey, this is like match made in heaven for you by all means. But let's taste it. Let's see where all the fun is. As soon as you go in to taste it, you get like this secondary wave of aroma, which is full of like pecans and toffee and more sort of big, you know, like toffee apple pies and things. It's really alluring and very just delicious. And then as the whiskey hits your palate, instantly it's spicy. I don't think it pulls any punches with its ABV. It's just very demanding, it's very deliberate, and it's you know, black pepper, white pepper, nice and fizzy, dances all around the palate. And then in from the right comes that big wave of caramel, and then in from the left comes those fruit notes again. And they just coincide in the middle, they mellow everything down, and it just turns into this beautiful, singular expression of what Arran whiskey is. Value-wise, at £50, I think it beats most of its cash strength brothers and sisters. Glenlivet Nadora Sherry Cask, about 60 quid, one of my favourites. Glenfarclas 105, about £66 when it's available, not seen it for a bit. Aberlour Boona's pretty crazy now, you know, £80 a bottle. Never been a fan of that anyway. But this in terms of value is quite extraordinary in what it does. And literally as you go to taste it, if you just have a little sniff as you go to taste it, the huge influence of dessert flavours are quite incredible. But overall, because it is a batch-based product, and because it is, I think, quite limited availability, and because cash strength is such a monster, it really does turn the tides of flavour profiles in a big way. It doesn't quite get a 10, it gets a 9, like a very, very, very solid 9, nearly a 10. But I would like, because I think it is the first batch of it, I would like to try batches side by side to see if there's consistency, to see if there's any sort of huge lack or increase in flavour. So that lack of knowledge within this style is just holding me back a little bit. So I apologise for that, it's not quite a 10. But if you've got 50 quid burning a hole in your pocket for a new bottle of whiskey, this should definitely be something you should look at. So thank you very much, Arran, for looking and producing this product, because it's what the whiskey industry, or the whiskey people who watch this channel, really wanted. Thank you all for watching this. It's a solid 9 out of 10 for the Arran Quarter Cask / the Bothy, 56.2% ABV. We'll be back next week, and I'll see you all then. Cheers.